Hello, everybody. Good morning. First, before we start, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. If you don't know me yet, my name is Bron Humphries. I am the Membership and Events Coordinator at Vicsport. Just a quick bit of Zoom housekeeping before we get started. But you'll all remain on mute and we won't be able to see your videos throughout the webinar, but feel free to utilise the chat function if you like, although we will be doing a Q&A at the end of the session. So if you do have any questions throughout the session, simply either go to the top or the bottom. It's likely at the top, in the middle or to the right. It just says Q&A, click that button, ask a question, and hopefully we'll get round to answering it towards the end. We're also utilising the live captioning function today, so hopefully that's working. If you'd like to utilise that function throughout the webinar, I believe there should be a flashing live captioning button somewhere on your screen, probably at the top or the bottom again. Just click that and it should come up with an option to view the live captioning towards the right of your screen. Okay, so yes, Vicsport, I'm sure most of you know us by now, so I won't go into too much detail about that, but this is us. Today you'll be hearing from Lauren Foote and Jack Lynch about their virtual exercise programming. They're from the city of Darebin. Teagan Kennedy will be speaking on active women and girls strategy from the city of Ballarat. And then we'll have Kirralee from the city of Brimbank speaking on the active Brimbank. So I'd like to thank everyone for their interest in these past webinars and this current one today. This is the third of 3 in this, the Vicsport COVID series. We will be running another couple of webinars going forward, which I'll detail before we close today. But yeah, it's had a really great take up, and we're really happy with the amount of reach we've been able to get and the amount of interest and the keenness that everyone is to get through these really hard times and get through them even more positive on the other side, which I believe is a really great opportunity for us to do so. So before we sort of get started into the first speaker, I'll just give a little bit of a background into LGAs. So local governments, they've always played a central role in the delivery of sport and recreation through the provision of sports facilities, leisure centres and open space. Many of them are now working proactively to increase physical activity rates and ensure sporting opportunities are inclusive of everyone. Similar to state sporting associations, LGAs have had to innovate and think differently during this COVID-19 pandemic. So we'll just sort of think about those sort of touch points as we run through these couple of initiatives. And as I said, these are only 3 different councils. I know there's a few interstaters listening in today, not from Victoria, although we do have 79 local government authorities in our state, and a lot of them are doing really great work. So this is just a couple to sort of hopefully get some ideas flowing. So Lauren and Jack from the city of Darebin, I'd like to introduce you both. I believe Jack is going to speak first. So welcome.
Hi, I think I'm on. Yep, I must be on. Hey, I'm Jack Lynch and I'm the fitness programs leader at the Reservoir Leisure Centre, and I'll be joined later by Lauren Foote, who is from our recreation team as well. So when COVID-19 hit, we had our normal programming. So I'm fitness programs leader at a leisure centre, and Lauren runs the Get Active program, which is all about inclusive exercise outdoors in a group setting. So once that hit and we had to close down our programs, we had to think about how we're going to keep our community active during COVID-19 while we can't run our regular programs. So Lauren gave me a call basically and said, hey, why don't we do some online stuff? So let's have a think about if we can do some live streaming or some recorded videos. So we decided to collaborate together. So the Leisure Centre team and the Get Active team joined together and create the Get Active online program. So the purpose of the program is aimed to keep our community active during COVID-19 as well as connected. And so the main goal of our program was giving different options for people for a range of ages and abilities. And we've sort of broadened the program to include other things for kids, people with disabilities, and specifically some things for parents as well. I'll move on to the next one. So the health impacts of COVID-19. So we don't really know yet what the long-term health impacts will be, but what we do know is that definitely with a lack of exercise that people were normally doing, they'll have a reduction in cardiovascular health, reduction in strength and independence and mental health. So probably from my perspective at Reservoir Leisure Centre, we've got a lot of older adults who use our facility, and particularly those who do aquatic-based exercise. So one of the things we were really worried about was things like falls risk for older people, as well as bone density, and one of the big one was social connection as well. So in the weeks after COVID-19 started, we've got 1,500 gym members, and we called 630 of our members. And from those that we spoke to, so we spoke to 630 of them, and we asked them if they'd continued exercising since we closed down. And we found that almost 30% had stopped exercising since the leisure centre shut down. So that really said to us, hey, we really need to make sure we do whatever we can to keep people exercising. Another thing we did with those phone calls is we offered home gym programs. So we got them to fill in a questionnaire, send it back, and we wrote personalised programs for them using our gym staff who were doing some admin work as well at the time. Go to the next one. I'll just move on to the next slide. So our target audience. So target audience is residents of Darebin. So at Reservoir Leisure Centre, we've got about 1,500 members for the health club, and we had about 3,000 Facebook followers. So they were people who were already engaged with the centre. So we were looking to be targeting people who were previously already engaged with our group exercise programs, as well as the Get Active program. Including, so mostly adults. Specifically, we wanted to target older adults and work out ways of connecting with them. Also stuff for women, and as well lower socioeconomic status, which would often be participants of the Get Active program, which is for free. And we'll just move on to my last section, which is the challenges. So we've had quite a lot of challenges in getting the program up and running. So one challenge was people not having the internet in order to view the content or have Facebook. The next one was the type of delivery. So we had played around with doing pre-recorded classes, and we found with the pre-recorded ones, one of the big challenges was ending up with quite large file sizes that made it really difficult to upload them and then schedule them on the Facebook page. And we had, probably with the start of COVID, it's probably a little bit better now, but we had some really, really slow internet speeds that affected both us and the instructors. Another challenge has been the time of day. So we've been doing some live streaming classes from here at Reservoir Leisure Centre, and being closed down, it means that we haven't got full access to the facility. So just working around those challenges of when can we come in the doors and run a session, and is that going to be appropriate for people who've got schedules that are a little bit different to what they've normally got, considering a lot of people are working from home. And then a few other challenges we've got down the bottom. So communicating to the public. So how do we get the word out there when we're mostly using Facebook? It's one of the other challenges. Another big one in the purple one is we've got music licensing. So that's been one of the major challenges, is working out what music can we use and what to do when music does get flagged, which does happen from time to time. Another big one was staff availability changes. So for Darebin Council, we were actually quite lucky to have lots of our casual staff redeployed doing other works for council. So at the start of us running this program, I basically had all my gym instructors and all of my group fitness instructors keen and ready to work. And then throughout the program, they ended up getting redeployed doing other council work. So we no longer had some of the staff, as well as other staff who maybe started getting JobKeeper from other employers. So we're no longer able to do extra work. And then the last one would be budget restrictions. So obviously with, us as a centre not having income, we had to look a little bit more at our expenditure and what was reasonable to spend on this type of program. I'll hand over to Lauren for the next one.
Thanks, Jack. So that was a great overview of the initial rollout of our online program. In terms of some of the success that we saw, we looked at some of the algorithms on Facebook in terms of the amount of reach, and we were able to reach a total of 40,000 people saw one of our fitness classes pop up on their feed, which is a great success. We were unable to use Zoom just from a council perspective, so that's why we chose Facebook. We've received a lot of great feedback from the public, and a lot of people really connecting to the instructors that they know and love, and that being quite a lovely community sense for them. In terms of helping people who don't have access to the internet, a great initiative that's come out of this time has been creating some paper-based workouts for older adults, and I'm working with Jade from Dandenong Council to look at a targeted This Girl Can initiative for older Muslim women. So that's been a great thing that's come out of really seeing who we can target that's most vulnerable in the community that might not be able to use the program that we have already set up. Once the class is live, it can be viewed at any time. So now forever, we've got a really great fitness library building up, and I think a lot of councils have that in their website and wellness hubs at the moment, which would be great to use long term. And we've expanded our program to include family-friendly options in some of our children's classes, and also our parents and bubs yoga classes as well. We also have started a staff initiative within council to encourage people to get active and do some home workouts, and we've been able to say, let's not reinvent the wheel, let's just redirect everybody to the Get Active program so that we can all be doing it together. So in terms of our expenditure, we did invest in a graphic designer, and with our instructors, the average rate is around about $70 a class, and we honoured the fee that they would be getting face-to-face, whether they came into the gym and adhered with social distancing or whether they did the class at home. And we have looked at some targeted advertising to reach residents within the Darebin community with our advertising as well. So per month, it might be helpful for other people to look at what our expenditure is, and that's approximately one class a day, which obviously can vary depending on what arrangements you have set up with your instructors. In terms of measuring success of the classes, We looked at analytics from Facebook in terms of what was the reach of the class, how many people viewed the class for 3 seconds, and what kind of reactions and comments we saw. A lot of people like to work out with their friends, even if it's online, so people would often comment and thank our instructor or tag a mate that they wanted to do the class with maybe next week. So we had our clubber-sized class, which is a little bit like Zumba, quite popular, alongside ResFit, which is a 30-minute body weight workout. Tai Chi is very popular, and Pilates as well. So in terms of what's next for us, and obviously this is a big week with releasing some restrictions on outdoor groups, we're still anticipating a big need for virtual exercise programming, and we're thinking about different delivery of online engagement, such as shorter videos targeted at sedentary populations, maybe 5 stretches you can do if you're working from home, getting to know our instructors and how they were coping and having some Q&A, maybe some fun inclusive challenges per week. Themed days. This Sunday we'll be all hopefully celebrating Ida Hobbit Day, the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia. And just continuing to provide a variety of instructors and classes as we return to face-to-face. I think we'll still have a large component of our year will probably remain virtual. And thinking about a ease newsletter and health and wellness hub that people can engage with. So those are some of our ideas of what's sort of next on the horizon for us.
That's awesome, Lauren. And Jack, thank you so much for that. I'm sure there'll be quite a few questions to come out of that. Sounds like a really, really great initiative and something that you're likely to continue on after these sort of times. So we'll wait for questions until the end. We'll throw it to Teagan Kenny now from the Participation Project Officer from the City of Ballarat, talking on active women and girls strategy and potentially a couple more. Teagan?
Thanks, Bron. Hi, everyone. I'm Teagan from Ballarat Council. I'm going to give a really brief overview of our Active Women and Girls strategy, which will touch on, I guess, the 4 key themes of the strategy as well, including a little bit about some of the outcomes we've had since implementing the strategy and some recent examples of some Get Active initiatives we've been working on. Thanks, Bron. So Active Women and Girls strategy, what is it? In 2018, we developed and implemented the strategy as our way of bridging the gap between gender inequality of males and females within Ballarat that currently participate in sport and active recreation. So this strategy is really about supporting and encouraging diversity, using an inclusive lens, and wanting to make sure that our Ballarat women and girls have the same options and opportunities as the male champions within Ballarat to be active. This strategy works hand in hand with our Ballarat is Active Action Plan, which we are currently revising. So we have 4 pillars within the strategy, and they really make up the crux of the work that we do with implementing the key items. So the first one is participation. What does that look like? What does that mean? Since we've implemented the strategy, we've really seen quite a big growth in flexible and social programming within Ballarat, linking in with our existing sport clubs to make sure that they have different types of offerings, different types of memberships that might not be so traditional, might not be the typical juniors, seniors, females teams, and more some of that flexible programming. Really have seen an increase in inclusive participation, so making sure we're including those within our community that have a disability. We do have 20% of our community within Ballarat identify as having a disability, as well as an older aging community. So that was really important for us to make sure they were represented in our implementation. And really the key items that we've seen come out of our work with around participation has been the social connections. As Lauren and Jack kind of already touched on, pre-COVID and during COVID, being socially connected is really key. And this is a lot of the work that we've done over the last couple of years around participation. Culture and environment. So this is really about looking at how we can ensure our sporting clubs are inclusive and healthy, ensuring that we have equal representation of women and girls in leadership roles, that be in paid or volunteer within clubs or social active groups as well. An increase in support and development of women and girls to fulfill those roles. So making sure that as a council that we're not just out there telling clubs, well, this is what you need to be doing. How can we provide them with some resources to support them in doing that? And essentially it's about encouraging those in our community who might identify with being socially isolated or disadvantaged, and ensuring we're creating those positive sporting structures. The media pillar has probably been my most favorite step on. It's really about increasing the celebrations of our active women and girls within the media, within Ballarat, ensuring that they have equal airtime, so to speak, and really around that positive advocacy work, with making sure that everyone within Ballarat and also broader Melbourne knows who these women are. Infrastructure is all about the sporting facilities we are building and providing to our community, making sure that when the community looks at a building, whether that be a sporting pavilion or walking trail, that they can really identify with using that facility, and making sure that they're female friendly as well. Thanks, Ron. So some recent examples of participation initiatives that we've been working on at Ballarat, pre-COVID and post-COVID, or while we're going through COVID, I should say. The Girls at the Bat program, that has been one of our most recent programs that we launched just before COVID hit, and that was in partnership with the Alfredton Baseball Club and Baseball Australia. It was really our take on This Girl Can, and how can we encourage our Ballarat women and girls to be involved in a sport that was maybe once male dominated. And we had 75 women who expressed interest to participate within that program, and we have had steadily 25 women show up each week with a ball and a bat in hand. So that was a really recent success story for us, and I guess showing the power of partnership and collaboration as well. The Ballarat Active Women's Network. So this is actually a project we've been working on through the COVID pandemic. Just prior, we did connect with about 60 Ballarat active women and girls and brought them together for a bit of a networking session, get to know one another, have a bite to eat, and work out, moving forward, how do we want our Ballarat active women and girls to be represented? How do we want the opportunities to be promoted and communicated, and really utilize this network to do that? So the whole power of the network is really bringing those women together to create a safe space to support and celebrate each other, and also talk about some of the challenges that they might face, either working or volunteering within sport and recreation. So since COVID has hit, we have managed to take the network online and go virtual, utilising a private Facebook page. We launched about 3 weeks ago, so we're still quite new in our infancy, but it definitely has so far been quite a positive experience. We've been managed to connect the women together so they can share a few stories of how they're staying active during COVID, and as well as making sure post-COVID, we're not losing that sense of community and connection. The Active Ballarat Passport. So this was actually an initiative we launched about 12 or 18 months ago. It was our take on getting our children fit and healthy and active, and maybe giving the power back to them a little bit on what is it like to be feeling fit and healthy and active. So essentially we came up with a passport size booklet, and we piloted the program with 200 children within a couple of primary schools, and we got them to log over a 4-week period their fruit and vegetable intake, their physical activity level, and their screen time, and really gave the power back to them to say, hey, what is it that I'm doing? How can I do better? We did partner with Vic Health and the Walk to School program, and also our health and wellbeing team for this program. And we've seen a 30% increase of physical activity over those 4 weeks, which was a really big win for us. Through COVID, we're now looking at and how we can bring this booklet virtual and online to make sure that it is highly accessible by all schools, all primary schools within Ballarat. So this is something we will be working with the Walk to School program again, moving into 2021. The Get Active Health Hub. So this is kind of, I guess, our take, not too dissimilar to the work that Darebin have been doing with their hub as well. When COVID hit us, we really wanted to make sure our community didn't stop their physical activity journey. And as a council, we really thought, well, how can we support this? So we partnered with our Ballarat Aquatic Lifestyle Centre and the staff there. Their few had been redeployed, as Jack has already touched on. I think most LGAs are experiencing this resource struggle. So we worked with what we had, and we did launch the hub 2 weeks ago now. Since the launch of the hub, we have seen an increase of about 15% of our community staying active and utilising the resources that we have provided. So essentially there are workout videos of modified workouts available for children right up to older adults. We've partnered with a few well-known initiatives such as the Ride Nation crew at Cycling Australia, and utilising the programming work that they've put out through COVID to really make sure that we are listening to what our community want. So that's been a really exciting one. And I guess, as Lauren and Jack have already touched on, that is something that we are hoping to continue with online once COVID is finished and our Ballarat Aquatic Lifestyle Centre go back to business as usual. So it definitely is an evolving project for us, and one of our most recent that we're quite proud of. Lastly, we're currently working through a Move It May campaign. So this was to be linked in with our Be Kind, Be Active initiative that the broader council had put out, and it's really about encouraging our Ballarat community to continue with the progress they made through Active April. And not losing that momentum with being active. So we've been able to provide our community with the hub, as I've said, with a range of free resources and videos. There's also PDF resources as well that the Ballarat Hospital has provided around healthy nutrition, and Ballarat Headspace around mental health and wellbeing. So we are moving through May at the moment, and we've had one of the most recent collaborations is with Ride Nation and their Go Cycle app. So this was really an extension of the work that we did with the Ride Nation crew when we opened up the Ballarat Ride Nation hub, which is out at Federation University in the Mount Helen campus. So definitely something that we're encouraging our community to get on board with. I will just quickly touch on some challenges that I think we've faced at Ballarat Council going through COVID. Definitely the engagement processes and adapting to how we're communicating with our communities has been a challenge. How do we stay connected and ensure that all the demographics across our community are being heard? So I think one way that we've been able to really combat this is making sure we're connecting internally with a range of different council business units, our youth team, our active ageing teams, our family and children's services, to make sure that their networks aren't left out as well and that they're still being connected. Some key takeaways would be partner. I guess when you're trying to implement a strategy that is wants to create social change around women and girls specifically being the target, it's really important to speak to those experts within that field and work out what it is that they might already be doing and how you can link in with the strategy or a policy you're wanting to implement. What's your point of difference? What can you offer? Data would be my next point. Not a lot of people can argue with tangible data, as Lauren and Jack have already presented with their program. Data is really powerful. It gives us the starting point of, well, what it is that we're wanting to combat? What is the problem here? And then it gives us also an insight into the gaps or the missing links of where we can do better. Speak to your communities, engage, and make sure that what they want is being told, the story, you're writing their story. It's really important to keep that engagement open, and especially since through an isolating time such as COVID, we need to make sure that we're speaking to our communities. And that's me. So thanks, Bron, and I'll pass it over to Kira.
Thank you very much, Teagan. That was really great. As I mentioned before, we will do some questions at the end. I'm sure lots of questions are buzzing around from Teagan there, that she went through a lot of really great initiatives and had some really good takeaways. Partnering, connecting, communication. Yeah, lots in that. I'm glad it's recorded, I think, and hopefully we'll send out this recording a bit later today or tomorrow, so we can revisit some of those and remind ourselves. Hopefully you're taking notes as well. So our next speaker, Kirralee Myers from the City of Brimbank. She's the Active Communities Development Officer there. She'll be speaking on the Be Active Brimbank program. So over to you, Kirralee.
Thanks, Bron. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's going well out there. If you feel like popping up and having a stretch or something, feel free to do so. But I've been invited today to speak about Brimbank Council's Be Active initiative, and given the current circumstances that we find ourselves in, I wanted to keep it as relevant as possible to the current situation. So I'll start with a quick overview of what Be Active is to those that may not have heard of the initiative before, and then I'll speak about how we're using the initiative to continue to deliver physical activity during coronavirus restrictions, and then how it'll assist us as a council to ensure physical activity participation is a top priority once these restrictions begin to be lifted, which we have seen is starting to happen. So we'll move on to my first slide. Thanks, Bron. Great, so Be Active Brimbank was launched in October last year, back when staying at home sounded like a beautiful dream and bulk buying toilet paper was for a complete different reason. So it feels like a lifetime ago. But the initiative was an outcome of Brimbank's physical activity strategy, which was adopted by Council in 2018. So it was a good 12 months of planning and collaboration before Be Active was formed into a service ready to be released to the community. There are two reasons why Be Active Brimbank is quite unique as a local government initiative. Number one, it's focused on active recreation only. So it doesn't include the delivery or the promotion of club-based competitive or elite sport. And number two, it's a cross-department project that includes about 12 different departments across council, which is pretty unique in local government. And that's all just because physical activity isn't just about the delivery of programs. It includes the promotion, the research, the infrastructure, the advocacy, inclusion and diversity, all the life stages and planning. So everyone has a role to play to ensure our community can find, access and participate in physical activity. And in Brimbank, this is no easy feat. The municipality is one of Metro Melbourne's most diverse and disadvantaged communities. We have just over 58% speaking another language other than English, and 35% having little to no disposable income. So there are multiple barriers to physical activity participation. And this is demonstrated through the stats as well. 23% of our community is not participating in any kind of physical activity, and 65% are looking for ways to be active outside of club-based competitive sport. So Be Active is targeting close to 90% of the Brimbank community. Every community has their own barriers though, and I'm sure this doesn't look too dissimilar to the stats you're familiar with in your own areas. No matter what the barriers might be, we need to break them down so that physical activity participation is increased across the board. To do this, we established a physical activity task force, This is a representative from each council department coming together for a monthly meeting. The meeting encourages cross-collaboration when planning physical activity projects and funding applications, and assisted with ensuring the Be Active initiative was a whole of council approach to physical activity. So this enabled us to launch Be Active through a suite of promotional channels, including developing a branding strategy, including a newly designed logo, vector images, photos and videos, creating and distributing a physical activity guide to all Brimbank's customer service centres, launching a website with activity search capabilities, a community member sign-up subscription, an organisational wide staff launch to really create that internal buy-in, delivering a Be Active community festival of free come and try activities to create that community awareness of the brand, and bringing all council run and supported physical activity venues, programs and initiatives within Brimbank under that Be Active banner. So I'll jump to my next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about how this has helped us during the current circumstances of COVID-19. So fast forward to March 2020, when COVID-19 restrictions began to be put in place, physical activity became even harder to participate in than ever before, but it also became as important as ever. We had to think really quickly and innovatively to ensure physical activity remained accessible and was able to be participated in at home or in the local areas. So we launched Be Active on Facebook to ensure the community had access to online videos, links and resources to remain physically and mentally healthy. This included live streams of group fitness classes from our Brimbank leisure centres and sharing some of the Be Active partners content, including our partners Live Life Get Active, Western Bulldogs Community Foundation and AAA Play. The Facebook page has reached over 2,500 people in 4 weeks, and each post is averaging about 50 engagements. We've also been able to move some of our existing programs, including our Interactive and Sons of the West, to online platforms to enable continued involvement by participants. However, with a community as diverse and disadvantaged as Brimbank, we knew that online-only physical activity is just not going to reach our most vulnerable community members who don't have access to technology or internet. So this week, 400 Be Active packs are being delivered to Brimbank households through our Meals on Wheels and community care programs. These packs include suitable, safe exercise ideas, a drink bottle, and a ball, all delivered in a Be Active tote bag. This is ensuring our elderly, those with a disability and our low income families can still be active in their homes. I'll jump to the next one. Thanks, Bron. So Be Active post-COVID-19, our biggest challenge is yet to come. I think something every sport, physical activity or recreation organisation out there is currently facing. How are we going to get people back being active in our venues, parks and open spaces? Be Active was originally developed to target those community members who were not meeting physical activity guidelines, but with local government facing the prospect of restrictions to club sport participation, the return to gyms and other forms of structured physical activity, suddenly this percentage of community members not meeting physical activity guidelines has increased exponentially. Brimbank is investigating a number of ways that we can ensure the Brimbank community continues to have access to affordable, flexible and accessible physical activity opportunities. This includes investigating changing our normal annual community grants program to focus on COVID-19 relief and rebuilding of the community, including supporting not-for-profit and community organisations to deliver physical activity when safe to do so. Working with organisations to deliver modified, flexible and free physical activity offerings, and changing our Intersport grant subsidy program to include COVID-19 affected families. We also understand that many community members will either have realised they enjoy being active in their own homes and won't immediately feel comfortable with returning to physical activity as it looked prior to COVID-19. So continuing to offer online physical activity will ensure there is a transition period and service those community members in which home workouts are now the new norm. So I'll finish up there, nice and quick overview of what we've been using. I'm more than happy if you're a state supporting body out there looking to run programs once things are safe to do so in Brimbank, feel free to reach out, or if you're a local government wanting to find out more about what Be Active is and how we've implemented, feel free to reach out as well. I think my contact details are in the next slide. So thank you very much for listening in.
Thank you so much, Kirralee. That was really great. Really good to hear about Be Active Brimbank. It sounds like it's really successful and going to continue being so going forward as well. So we'll go into some questions now for you all. So there's been a few questions coming through, but if anyone does have any more questions, feel free to shoot them through. We'll go back to Jack and Lauren. So one attendee asked, which elements of the live streaming classes will be kept as a value add for members when the gym does eventually reopen after COVID? So Jack or Lauren, you want to unmute yourselves and answer the question?
All right, I've just hit unmute then. I guess for us at the Leisure Centre, something that we might consider doing is, we don't really know what post-COVID gyms look like yet, but potentially live streaming classes that are actually happening in the centre at the time would be really cool. But yeah, other than that, I think Lauren probably like to keep some of the Get Active online happening.
Yeah, I think with the current restrictions of 10 people only outside, I'm anticipating that number will hopefully slowly grow. So we might have to have a blended approach with some places booking out in terms of the first 10 in. We might wait till it's 20 to resume face-to-face classes outside, and then hopefully provide a blended online option for people as well. But it's not something we've got an answer for just yet. It's a good question.
Fair enough. All right, so we'll go back to Kirralee. So we've just had a note on the great idea of delivering the packs to the vulnerable households, specifically those who may not have access to internet. So do they come in any, those packs come in any languages other than English? Because I've also had another question of all of these resources from all of you that you've stated your initiatives also being translated for people from cold backgrounds, and how sort of you went about doing that.
Yeah. So the exercises that went out are in English. However, Brimbank Council do offer an interpreter service. So if they wish to interpret those exercises, they can be. The good thing about the exercises is that they do come with a range of motion images, so they can be interpreted visually, I suppose, for those that may not be able to read English.
Great. So over to Teagan now, particularly because you've been involved in quite a few successful initiatives. Have councils had experience in partnering with community health organisations to deliver on participation projects? And how has those partnerships that you mentioned benefited the projects? What did community health bring to the partnership that was missing beforehand?
Yeah, this is a really good question and quite an interesting space, I think, for sport and active living, and especially at our council. My role was completely new. So before that, it was kind of like, how do we partner with health organisations? So I guess through this being a bit different, as it's a whole strategy, we've been working really closely with Central Highlands Primary Care Partnership. I want to get that right. And basically they deliver a lot of the connector work. So making sure I'm connected to who's who do I need to be speaking with. They've connected me recently in with Ballarat Health Services regarding a Healthier Sport Clubs initiative that we're looking at implementing next year, which is all about, you know, healthy food catering policies and things like that. So it is definitely a space that was quite new to us, but we are working through. It's benefited in the sense that physical activity and health and well-being and chronic illness, it all is trying to combat the same issue in a sense. And that having the strategy helped us to connect the two. So we work really closely with our health and wellbeing team at council on a few items within the municipal health and wellbeing plan, and really just about how do we make sure that physical activity is, you know, helping combat chronic disease and illness and things like that. So I guess from the perspective of it's benefited in having a range of different knowledge that someone who works in sport might not have thought of. And it's been really helpful. The girls at the PCP have just been so great in making sure, like I said, connecting who I need to be speaking with. So that's been probably the biggest benefit. Like I said, collaborate every time you can get the chance to.
Yeah, that's really great. Thanks, Teagan. I'll throw it back to Jack and Lauren as well. So you mentioned you had a reach of 40,000. That I'm sure that never would have happened pre-COVID, before sort of going virtually online. Do you think you'll sort of keep that going post-COVID? I assume you did mention you were going to keep the online sort of stuff going. Do you think it will sort of remain that high, or do you think it will have a little bit of a drop off after this sort of settles down a little bit?
I think it'll drop off personally. I think people are ready to be doing something other than in their homes. I'm certainly ready to be doing something other than a couch workout. So I think we capitalised quite early on a demographic that was online a lot more than they usually would be, and wanting to do something to replace their physical activity levels. So I think the numbers might drop off, but that's probably where we can start to get a bit more targeted. So rather than just us very quickly putting together the best that we could of what we thought would meet the needs of the community, maybe from a medium long-term perspective, we will learn the marginalised groups or the groups of people that for whatever reason do want women's only classes, do want disability friendly classes for all abilities, that are much more easily delivered online. And then I think conversely, we can also capitalise on the amount of people that are physically using our parks and our ovals and our facilities right now that are a great catchment of people that are already heading towards the local soccer club or whatever it might be, and council can really take advantage of what active recreation looks like for those people that are ready to be out of their homes.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Lauren. So, geez, a few questions coming through here. Actually, I might throw back to Kirralee. Specifically because you had you touched on quite a number of different cohorts, I suppose, of people. So how do you engage or consult with people with a disability for co-design of programs and initiatives to be suitable for them?
Co-design is something that we're definitely touching on at Brimbank right now. So we're just using our partners. I really liked Teagan's emphasis on that local government play a really big role in the community, but so do our partners. We just reach out to them as well and develop those to be able to reach out to those community members. So some off the top of my head would be the likes of Scope, which are really strong in Brimbank as well. So using those partners and our health organisations as well. So on that question earlier as well, Brimbank do a lot of in that space as well.
That's great, thanks Kirralee. Just on that, while we're on the whole topic of partnerships, I'll throw it back to Teagan. How do you see changes moving forward through this COVID and afterwards this period? How do you see local government organisations continuing their partnerships with state sporting associations, but also clubs?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting point. I think within my presentation, a challenge we've been experiencing through COVID especially has been engagement and changing the way that we would typically engage with our partners. So for us in Ballarat, it might be, you know, calling someone and going, hey, let's have a meeting now, and not being able to do that has been really pivotal for me in my role, because I've had to do a lot more calling and a lot more emails, which is not my favorite. So I guess moving forward post-COVID, engagement and communication, it's going to be key, working with our state sporting associations and trying to get people back out there and active. I would be more interested to know if anyone had ideas around what they think. How do they think LGAs could better communicate? How do you want to be communicated with? I think is a key point to make. I know for us, with our sporting clubs, we have a online e-newsletter that we are now sending out monthly called Active Ballarat. So that's basically been developed to keep our clubs informed of all the work that we're doing or our partners are doing through COVID, including grant opportunities, different online programming, that type of thing. I think moving post-COVID, as Lauren, Jack, Kira have already touched on, linking in with the partners and communicating is going to be it's going to be a challenge, and I don't think any of us have that answer, so to speak. But really trying to implement activities online has been crucial. And for us, like I said, we have Active Ballarat, and we've had quite a high success rate with Active Ballarat, and our community wanting to know more. So I guess where you can try and put an online option, a newsletter, or something like engaging, that would be my key takeaway for that.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. Partnerships require communication, and particularly through this period, it's quite difficult for a lot to keep up that communication. A lot more over email, I suppose, but it's sometimes can be a little bit difficult to determine the exact emotions that are going on in an email just with a few words, and can be difficult to make those Zoom meetings, team meetings, whatever it is. But the communication does go both ways, and so I think it's just really important that I suppose the more the better, and as long as you're really getting that message across is vital. So we might go back to Kirralee. So you mentioned the Be Active Brimbank on Facebook. It's been really great, obviously, for accessibility and for reach. But have you had any issues with, I don't know, any trolling issues or any other potential issues that have been negative in that rollout on Facebook?
We haven't actually. I mean, it's only been live for 4 weeks. So I can't really talk to that. It's all been quite positive. I think in this time, it's what people are looking for. And I mean, I can't predict the future. We're lucky that it has the support of our digital department as well, which we have a range of different Facebook pages across different departments. So we've had the training and whatever to be able to deal with that if it ever comes to it.
Yeah, that's actually really good to hear. I'm glad. Bit of a sigh of relief there. So maybe these things are really positive to go about. We'll go back to Lauren. So we've got a stat here from one of our attendees that more than 70% of our club members live in a different local government to where the club is. So do you think there's sort of any challenges there where sort of leagues, I suppose, or sporting kind of competitions go over multiple councils?
Like personally, I see this as an opportunity for councils to work together. And I think often we operate within these borders of our councils where there's literally a line down the street where it's Darebin on one side and Moreland on the other side, for example. So I really do think it's quite a great opportunity to work together with other councils. And in terms of state sporting associations for the larger sports, often we'll have like a rep for that region that we can kind of communicate with that might manage the northern municipality, which is where I'm kind of located. So I think it's an opportunity, and I can't remember, I think it was Maribyrnong, one of their slogans with their Get Active program that is also really excellent is they wanted to reach people who live, work and play within that area. And I think we really have lots of people moving in and out of our council, not just the residents who live there. So it's a really great catchment to think about people who work nearby and might live an hour away. They still might come and play sport close to work, and it's not just residents. So I think councils can get together and kind of come up with targeted initiatives for people within that region.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. And again, coming down to that partnership and communication and working together, I think we can work better together to sort of create these really good things moving forward. Going back to Teagan, so you mentioned Girls at Bat and how successful that was pre-COVID. How do you think that will sort of move through and post-COVID? And do you think it will sort of stay as successful, or do you think it will increase in success, or do you think they'll sort of move on a little bit?
Yeah, so I've been touching base with the club quite regularly and working out how are they keeping the women who have participated or expressed interest in the program together. And they actually have their own private chat, I guess, which they've been connecting with. We just recently did an evaluation on the program, and we linked in with the women who participated and got their thoughts and their feedback on a little bit of, what more do they want to see post-COVID. So that was really helpful for us. Again, going back to a point about data, I think that'll really help post-COVID, looking at what it is the women actually said and what they want out of the program moving forward. Again, for us and for that program specifically, I think as long as we're keeping the communication lines open and we're touching base with not only the participants but the volunteers, as a council, it's really important for us to provide them with the support, and if it's more resources or it's liaison with the state body, we need to be doing that. So it is something we have been plodding along with. Once I collate all the data from the evaluation, I think that'll be a really good turning point for us to sit down and reflect and see, okay, once some of these rules are loosened up a little bit, how can we further the initial success of the program and make sure that we're giving the women what they want. So yeah, I guess I would just say that's something we're still working through, but having that evaluation data will be really pivotal for us.
Yeah, right. So they took their own initiative and they created their own group without you guys even knowing.
Yeah, so it was facilitated by the trainers, the coaches from the club. They were like, what, we don't want to lose this amazing group of women. Let's get a little Facebook chat together, and they just love it. They're really connected on there, and I love hearing those from council. That's not something we kind of get to really do. So I was quite happy to hear that they're still connecting and they're still chatting.
Yeah, that sounds just really awesome. That's something that you've created have just gone on and sprung into its own little life there without you even having to do anything. You just had to sort of start the initiation process. That's really great. I think that's the goal of pretty much any initiative or startup program. I mean, you just look at from my perspective and my sort of I suppose, previous knowledge in personal life, something like Parkrun, how much that sort of initiated so many different groups that have just come together and formed by themselves. It's just been really great. One more question before we sort of start to wrap it up, to Kirralee. Just got a query on how you were able to work out that 68% of the community wanted non-club based sports.
Yeah, so the 68% doesn't mean that they're not playing club sport, but if they're playing club sport, they're also looking for non-structured physical activity as well. So we all know lots of people who might play netball, but they also enjoy walking in the park or going for a run or park run, like you said. So that includes that cohort as well. But the stat itself came from a Vic Health study probably about 3 or 4 years ago, specific to Brimbank.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we'll open it up to all 4 of you now. So just curious on how you see the shift in council's resourcing of active recreation following this COVID period. Potentially more staff dedicated to facilitate providers, or more funding for provider programs such as modified or informal offers from the state sport associations. Wondering how you sort of see that sort of eventuating.
Well, hopefully both, more resources and more money. I think within this space, active recreation is still quite new and emerging in a way. You know, I think the state did a great job with the launch of Active Victoria, which really kind of, you know, gives us a framework for the work that we're doing here on the ground. I think post-COVID resourcing will be a big one. I think getting, like Lauren has already touched on, and Kira, getting people out of their homes is going to be a really big challenge. Providing them with different incentives as well, with different programs that they might not be able to do at home will be key, because there will be quite a bit of anxiety around coming back out. So I think post-COVID, more resourcing will be needed, and I guess that collaboration. So really having the state bodies and the local government bodies working together to make that happen.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be able to come about then.
Yeah, I agree with Teagan, and I think, as I mentioned earlier, with so many people using our ovals in particular and our walking spaces and our cycling spaces, I think that brings a real opportunity to keep them using these spaces, not just for transportation or because like walking is literally one of the only things I can do right now, but because maybe they'll be able to join a walk and talk group where afterwards you grab a coffee, or maybe they don't want to play, you know, competitive soccer, but there's a fun night every Thursday night where you can just rock up, put on a bib and play. And maybe that's something free that we invest in, that's a slight shift of our usual Get Active program, to get the community active one night a week, or to provide an opportunity just for parents to do it, you know, at the start of the day. So I think it's a great opportunity to rethink how we get the community active and to bridge the gap between competitive sport and active recreation.
Yeah, also in agreement. I think, my particular role has been focused on those that may not be currently active and how we transition them into physical activity. And so we look at that active recreation, the walking, the going out to the park, that real first step, and then into that modified social programming as well. So we see that's quite common, that that will be the first step. And then if they like, they can move on to that structured sport or into the gyms. So that it's kind of the pathway into meeting the physical activity guidelines. And I think that has just expanded now. So instead of reaching those that are not currently active, we're now reaching pretty much the whole community. That transition from us being in the house, not being able to participate in our normal physical activity, that small step into back what they may have been doing before will be really important, and us being able to offer that to them.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll have one final question for all four of you. As similar to what Tom did last week, I'm also a fan of offsiders. So we'll just finish off on one last little just little insight or finishing note you'd like to sort of finish on. Potentially going on the changes in restrictions that are about to happen at 11:59 p.m. tonight. Otherwise, just on whatever you like. So we'll start off with you, Jack.
Hello. What was the question? So thinking about what we're doing next with the next restrictions.
Just one last little piece of insight you'd like to offer for the audience. Could be on whatever you like.
We're at Reservoir Leisure Centre, so we're just basically, doing everything we can to anticipate when and how we might reopen. But I guess one thing about doing the online stuff, I guess some of the key takeaways have been, for me, collaborating with Lauren. I've learnt a lot. And also with our instructors, they've really had a chance to learn some different skills and connect with each other in different ways. So I think looking at this type of stuff from that perspective as well is really good, in that we're all learning new skills as well.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right in that learning new skills point. I think quite a lot of us can come away with, even those who may have been laid off for a certain amount of time, I think quite a few of us can add a few points to their resumes after this time. Lauren?
So my takeaway message is we're rebooting sport, and this has never happened before. So you get to think about whatever your job is, whether you're in local council or a state sporting association or in an independent sporting club, you get to rethink inclusion and how to bring everybody with you. So I think whenever you are starting back up whatever program you're responsible with and you're collaborating all these lovely relationships, try to just put that lens on it. Have we left anybody out? Are there other voices that don't look and sound like mine that are in this conversation? So that would be my takeaway.
Yeah, great. Awesome. All right, Teagan?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Lauren. And kind of, I agree. It's really about getting creative and thinking outside the box, I think. Do we have something currently that families can go out and do together, socially, leisurely? Is that a demographic that we need to be more focused on? I think when we're post-COVID and we're trying to get our communities back out and getting active, ensuring that we have that all demographics accounted for is going to be really important. So really just like I guess Lauren has touched on, that inclusion lens is going to be really, really important. Whether, that future planning should be happening now, I would say. Connect now, link in with those partners now. And even if it's just an idea, have that project brief there ready. And then post-COVID, hopefully we can all make it happen together.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think a lot of people are thinking that they potentially don't have much work to do during this time, but I'm feeling like it's the opposite. I feel like now is where we should be hunkering down and really trying to get those partnerships, that communication going, and changing some of your policies and programs that you currently may have been doing for years, just because that's the way you've done it, and really taking this time as an opportunity to be better and more inclusive. Kirralee?
Mine will be, let's just create a new normal. I think this is a really amazing opportunity to take a huge leap in sport and recreation and create something that might have taken us years or decades to come to. Let's use this opportunity to really engage with our communities and let's get them active.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Kirralee. That's really great. Create a new normal. That's how we'll leave you for today, guys. So After that, it's pretty much it for today on this webinar. Our next webinar coming up is we'll finish this COVID series. We will continue to provide insight and information on all things COVID and updates going forward. So just make sure you follow our socials. I'll go to in a minute. But our next event next week is the direction of sport in the digital age, which Vicsport will run together with our partners, Stack Sports. And we've also got the Tuesday after that, we also start back with our Vicsport talks. Tom Dixon has done amazing things in those areas. So look out for those couple of upcoming webinars, and hopefully you can tune in. So yes, if you follow our socials, and subscribe to our SportsView e-newsletter, you'll hear it all through there. So thanks again for attending. Thanks, many thanks to the panelists today and all our previous panelists. And we'll see you all soon.